Welcome, everybody. My name is Stuart Cohn, and this is Bonnie Raska. Bonnie is head of sales, leisure travel, accident, and health with Chubb. And this is a special program because it's been inspired by our friends at Travel Agent Hack. So I want to personally thank Alina for making that all happen. And this is also a component of Group Bootcamp. We meet every other week in this live business coaching session. And if it's your first time here, I'd like to just let you know what's going on. We're going to dig right in before I introduce our special expert guest, who is also a good friend for many years. There's no slides, friends. Okay, we're going to get right down to business, and you're going to hear what you need to hear. And you could be a fly in the wall. You can watch and you can listen to everybody else's questions, everybody else's problems and challenges, or you can be proactive and you type in a question if you want. And I definitely encourage you to go ahead and find that little question box and type something in if you'd like, just to let me know you can see us. So that slide is not going to change. So if you want, you can toggle us so you can see us really big, because we are both extremely good looking. Isn't that right, Bonnie?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And really, my friends, this program is all about you, the travel professional. So a very, very, very special welcome to my group boot campers, a very special welcome to those who are here from Travel Agent Hacks, a very special welcome to colleagues and friends and family who are just here for the ride, but our focus is insurance, everything insurance, and wow, thank you all, everybody, for sending in your questions. We've got a ton of things to cover. So let me just do a quick check of the comment question box right now. And friends, just so you know, as we go along, I'm going to multitask. I'm going to communicate with Bonnie, okay, and I'm going to check the boards here for questions and comments. So let's participate. This will be recorded and will be available for replay, because I think you're going to want to hear it 7 times. Because it's already going to be so good. Bonnie, before we start, give us the elevator speech, in case there's somebody who, it would be hard to imagine, who doesn't know you, hasn't met you yet. Just give us your speech. Who are you? What do you do? How long have you been doing this?
Okay. Thank you, Stuart. So this is an honor to be part of this session, and I'm glad for everybody that has attended today. My name is Bonnie Raska. I'm head of sales for leisure travel and for Chubb Travel Protection. With that, I've been in the travel insurance industry for 20 years. Unbelievable, 20 years already, and I still got another 20-some years to go. So with that, I have seen all aspects of the travel industry. I have traveled all around the world. I've actually, I think to date, my husband has the count at 47 different countries I've been at. I have been on cruises, I've been on tours, I've been on groups, I've been on every type of travel you can imagine. So with that, I bring a lot of additional information, not only from the travel insurance space, but also from the traveler perspective. And as I say, Stuart, I'm the one that has to experience what I sell each and every day. Kid you not, I probably encounter a travel delay or some situation 70% of the time. And my team says they never want to travel with me because I am the one stuck in an airport, trying to get reconnected, having challenges, even on vacation. It's just an amazing thing that I just have to experience what I sell every day. So I'm excited to be participating today. I'm really looking forward to all the questions everybody has about insurance.
Yes, we're going to dig in. Thank you, Bonnie. And friends, again, if you don't know Bonnie, I just want to let you know there is no bigger travel agent advocate than the professional you see on your screen right here. Bonnie has dedicated really her career, your career, to being the travel agent, a cheerleader, and making insurance work and making and helping it make sense. And I'm so lucky we get to speak at so many events, so many conferences in the industry at the same time. So I want to dig right in, and then I'm going to get to the question board. I already see questions and comments popping up. So first question that came in when we first announced today's program was from Debbie from Babbitt Travel Adventures, and her question is, Bonnie, I'm hoping you can address pre-existing conditions, as it's always a bit confusing for me. So Bonnie, can you unscramble that, help us make better sense of it?
Okay, so there's a lot of variation in regards to pre-existing and how it's handled in the travel insurance industry, and I'm going to keep this very generalized so that people can really learn here. So what you have to look for in a travel insurance policy is you first want to look at what is the pre-existing exclusion and how many days does the company look back.
Okay.
You also want to look to see if the pre-existing exclusion applies to just the travelers or if it applies to the travelers and the family members. Then the next step is you want to check the general exclusions on a policy and see if there's any statements such as some competitors out there have statements that indicate if there's a terminal illness expected in the next 12 months, that condition's not going to cover no matter what. So you really first look at the pre-existing exclusion, then look at all the other general exclusions. Then you look at what the waiver is. Every travel insurance company has a waiver on the programs, and those waivers will state you have to purchase a policy within a certain number of days for your travel. So most of the time, it's once you make your very, very first payment, you have so many days, 7, 15, 21, depending on the company.
Okay.
Then they also have other statements on there that say you might be required to cover all your prepaid non-refundable travel costs to maintain that waiver. They might also state that the traveler has to be medically able to travel at the time they purchase the policy in order to qualify. So first thing, read the pre-existing exclusion, understand how many days they look back, understand if in that exclusion is it applied to just the travelers or the travelers and their non-traveling family members.
Okay.
Then look at the general exclusions and see if there's any of those that aren't going to cover for the cancer situations, the terminally ill situations. Then look at the waiver. So with that, so let me I will give you an example on how we handle it.
Okay.
Chubb does have the policies that state you buy within 15 days, you're medically able to travel when you buy the policy, and you cover all your prepaid non-refundables. We don't have any other general exclusions. If you meet those 3 conditions, the pre-existing is waived for you and all of your family.
Okay.
So 2 situations.
Yeah.
One situation is I'm the traveler, I meet those 3 things, I'm medically able to travel, I cover all my costs, and I bought it in time. Chubb will not look back the 90 days at all at previous conditions for anybody that files a medical claim.
Okay.
If I was that traveler that was actually, maybe I'm the person that has cancer, if I'm not cleared to meet that stipulation for traveling, that waiver doesn't apply. I have to meet all those 3 stipulations. So every travel insurance carrier handles it differently. Every 2 years, I review 10 different travel insurance companies' policies and all that 30-page fine print that everybody has, and they all vary from one company to the next. So make sure you check those 3 things.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Bonnie. And Debbie, are you on the line here, Debbie? There's too many people logged in for me to check, but that's a great question. And I want to segue to another Debbie. It's a different Debbie from NWA Getaways Dream Vacations. Bonnie, when a client is healthy and his cruise is not yet in cancellation penalty, why should my clients purchase insurance at time of booking instead of at final payment?
The one thing to keep in mind is the pre-existing conditions. The benefits that people get up front, travel insurance carriers want people to buy up front because you don't know what's going to happen if you're traveling a year from now. Okay. So you need that pre-existing waiver. Most of the companies do have that waiver apply to everybody in your family, and that family list is quite extensive, so you need to get that. But you also need to check with your travel insurance carrier to see how they handle it. So say somebody books their cruise today, in 3 months they book their airfare, and 3 months after that they book their shore excursion. Okay. We will actually allow people to only cover the portions of the money paid, and they always get that same 15 days over and over and over again to increase their policy as they're making payments. Some companies say you have to insure everything right at day 1. Some people allow you that flexibility. So you need to verify that with your travel insurance carrier.
Okay. All right. That's a great answer, and I hope everyone's paying careful attention at what Bonnie is explaining. There are different rules. There's no one set policy for all of the insurance companies. So that's really important. Let me check the boards here. Welcoming in Klaus, I'm glad you're here. Hello, Hans. Hans is in the house. Jean Ann says, good morning, Stuart and Bonnie. We got a question from Mike Marshev. The question is, hey, Mike, hey, Marv, can we decline insurance offered by the rental car company? Can you explain how that works with rental cars? Because so many people have those questions. Should I, shouldn't I? Should I, shouldn't I?
Okay. So some travel insurance policies allow for a car rental coverage, but keep in mind that car rental coverage offered by travel insurance companies is traditionally only coverage for the rental car and not for liability coverage. This is where it's really important for a customer to understand what their personal car insurance provides for car rentals if they rent a car. But the thing you have to keep in mind is depending on the country you're traveling to and renting the car, there's a list of countries that will not allow you to rent the car unless you buy their insurance. So you can't decline. I always think of them as the I's. I know there's different rules in Israel, Italy, Ireland, some of those. Mexico, Jamaica might have different rules. So you really have to evaluate it on a per country basis, but also encourage your customer to look at their personal car insurance along with the car rental coverage offered by the travel insurance.
Okay. So before you get up to that desk, we need to know what our personal coverage is if we should take it. Yep. Thanks for joining us, Mike. Awesome question. Kim's in the house. Julianne. Okay, here's a question just typed in from Julianne, everybody. And welcome if you've just arrived. We've already dug in deep. We've got Bonnie here in the house. I want to give a shout out to my boot campers, to friends who are joining, and also to Travel Agent Hacks who have inspired this. So make sure, friends, now type your questions in now to make sure we get everything answered from our expert. Here's what Julianne says. It's all in the details of the policy, helping a client with a claim, and he is not happy that meals are not covered for a trip interruption because of wife's medical condition. Also, the clients decide to spend $1,300 for a hotel overnight and dinner and hope to be reimbursed since they expected up to 150% of their trip plan. It's hard to know exactly what to tell clients beforehand because they never read their policy through. So, I'm not sure if that's a question or just statements of some of the challenges. Did you want to make a comment to that, Bonnie?
I do. One of the things to keep in mind with travel insurance is each benefit has their own purpose. So trip cancellation is to cancel your trip and any monies you lost that you've insured. Interruption is designed to pay for missed days of travel and the additional transportation costs to catch up. Trip delay coverage is what is there for paying for additional unexpected hotels, meals, ground transportation. Missed connection is there just to help you catch up with transportation or a possible missed day. And then, of course, there's the baggage and medical. So each of those components have their own segment, their own reason for what they're covering. Some companies in travel insurance include all the reasons for trip cancellation interruption under trip delay plus some extras. Some companies say the only time they'll pay for those additional hotels, meals, and taxis on trip delay is for a limited reason. So you really have to look at trip delay is what's covering those additional unexpected expenses, and you need to look at what those reasons are under that benefit.
Okay, so again, we have variables too, and it's important for us not only to be travel experts, but sure, insurance experts. Bonnie, travel insurance or travel protection? Is there a right or wrong phrase we should use?
You know, there's a lot of questions in regards to whether I should call it protection or call it insurance, but ultimately a lot of it comes down to the new law that was passed, started in 2013 up until is still going on right now, but all states except for New York, Hawaii, Ohio, and Pennsylvania have adopted the travel retailer model law. And with that, you can offer and disseminate insurance under the travel insurance provider's license rather than having your own license. Whether you get into calling it insurance or protection, I think that's a personal preference on each travel insurance company. Okay.
Good. So there's no legalities there of what we should be calling it. Thank you, Bonnie. Jean Ann asked a question. Bonnie, does Chubb exclude cancer as a pre-existing medical condition for its waiver of pre-existing medical conditions? Some companies exclude cancer or require the passenger to be in remission at the time of purchase.
Our policy does not, and this is where you get back to that pre-existing condition and you look at what's specifically listed in the general exclusions of the policy. Our policies do not have any restrictions, because somebody can be, I've been through this on a personal level with family and friends, and I see so many people struggle with this disease. Yeah. Some people get through, they go straight into remission. Some people, they say that you have a year left and they end up living 3 to 5 years. There's really no way for us to say, I'm booking my trip in 6 months. Is this condition going to hurt or not? That's why our pre-existing just states, if you're traveling and you're medically cleared to travel when you buy the policy, we will give you that waiver if you meet the day requirement and you purchase for all your prepaid non-refundables. We're not specifically citing out cancer because it's too variable to cite it out.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bonnie. And friends, these are tough subject areas. These are difficult when you're dealing with clients, and one thing we can't do is run from them, hide from them. We need to attack it professionally, head on, because that's what our clients would want, and we want to do the best for them. So if there's any confusion, I'm sure, Chubb, you have a helpline, right? The agents can make a phone call and ask these questions as well.
And one of the things to keep in mind with that travel retailer model law that was passed is people without a license are able to offer and disseminate, which means you can quote the policy, you can purchase the policy, you can recommend the policy, you can talk about general coverage information, but anything specific you can't do. You need to send it to the travel insurance provider's call center. They have to answer those questions. So you should not focus like having to be an insurance expert. Get those customers to call in and ask all the questions they have.
All right. Well, if I can go back and underline and highlight what you just said, I'm doing it right now. Doing it right now. Bonnie, thank you. Alina wants to know, terrorism seems to be on a lot of clients' minds. What do we need to be aware of? What is usually covered and what is not?
Well, once again, all the fine print varies by every travel insurance carrier, so you need to look at exactly how they have it worded in their policy. Yeah. Some companies list it that terrorism, if there's a terrorist attack in a city you're scheduled to travel to or through within a specified number of days after the attack, and if their company deems it a terrorist attack, then you can cancel and say, I'm done. Some companies go beyond that and say, if there's multiple terrorist incidents in a city, so the example earlier this year with London, that there were 3 back-to-back, that they only started the clock on the first one. So you really have to pay attention to that wording. But all of them say you have to be traveling to or through that city after that terrorist attack is identified as a terrorism attack, because the catch-all is making sure it's not classified as a civil disorder or act of war, because most travel insurance policies won't cover for that. Okay. So let's look at the London. I'll use the London and the Barcelona for last week as examples. Okay. So with the London situation, is specific to Chubb's policies. Our state, if you're traveling to or through that city within 30 days of the actual incident, you can just say, I'm done, I'm canceling, I don't want to go, or I can come home early. The catch is you have to be traveling to or through that city, not somewhere in the vicinity of. So with last week's Barcelona, Chubb did designate it as a terrorist attack. We gave everybody an alert notice that here's the 30-day cutoff. You couldn't be going to Madrid. You have to be going to or through Barcelona on your itinerary in order to say, I want to cancel. Okay. And there's reasoning travel insurance companies put that 30-day stipulation out there, and all of this stems back to the original incident that happened with 9/11 in the United States. So everybody has done their wording, but just do a double check and ask your travel insurance provider how specifically they handle it and how they designate if it's a terrorist attack or not.
Okay, great. Lena, I hope that answered your question. I think that's been on everybody's mind, especially since we thank goodness we haven't had an incident in Mexico, but we just had a warning been issued by the State Department, which is certainly troubling. Jean Ann says, most insurance companies do not disclose their policy regarding cancer in print in the description of coverage. So I would imagine if it's not in print to the degree you need that explanation, it's a phone call. It's a phone call, and then
you should make you should make a phone call, and every travel insurance carrier should be willing to define their interpretation of their certificate of insurance and be able to reference what they're citing for their certificate of insurance. Any agent that would contact me saying, I want to know how you handle this, I would cite my pre-existing exclusions. We don't have any other general exclusions, and here's how the stipulations are to get it waived. But we can't get into every medical condition and put it in the policy, because you never know what medical conditions everybody has, and it can apply across the board. But definitely contact your travel insurance carrier and ask them, I want this in writing from you, and get it in writing.
Right, and they'll supply it. That makes sense, because they can't, it would be a voluminous book if they issue it, unfortunately. Okay, so I'm going to take a couple more questions from the boards here, then I'm going to go to what we have sent in. Darlene says, hello, good morning. Hi, Darlene. Casey asks, with booking, for example, cruises sailing in 2019, how far out can we insure? Allianz only allows some 700 days, which caused me great problems recently trying to cover full payment of their cruise for holiday 2019.
Everything is going to vary by travel insurance carrier in regards to how many days they allow the booking. Chubb's policy is 710 days. Will we reevaluate the number of days based on the situation? We always are looking to enhance and innovate anything we're building. So if we start seeing that people are booking even further out, but the tradition is you can't generally finalize your airfare until 1 year out, and we understand that there's certain situations that go further out than that. We just need to get further understanding to see if there's a necessity for us to evaluate increasing that number of days.
Okay. All right, there you go. Thanks for that question. Hey, by the way, I was remiss in not giving a shout out to my friend Mike Marshev, who has me as a guest on his show, and Mike's been a guest on my show here, and we are dual keynoters at the upcoming Palace Resorts Conference in October, and grateful to always share the stage with this man. I just want to give a shout out to you guys, that especially we have so many travel agent hacks people here and boot campers here, that if you want even more coaching and phenomenal mentoring, check out Mike's Inner Circle. Yes, a shameless plug, not for me, but for my friend Mike. Just go to MikeMarshev.com. He has an Inner Circle where he does coaching like this, and it's phenomenal. A lot of great resources. Okay, Denise, your question is so timely because we're going to switch gears now, and let's talk more about groups. So here we go. Denise, great tee up. Hey, Bonnie, I'm most interested to hear you if you cover group travel. Could you please tell us about your group policy? So let's start digging in. We'll take question by question. Go ahead, Bonnie.
Okay. So group policies, Chubb does have a group policy available. But one of the things I just want to start out with talking about groups, and I know Stuart had indicated that was going to be a main topic for today, is there's two different ways to handle group policies.
Okay.
One way is a company may build the policy, and it's all based on how they build the policy and how they set their filings up in each state Department of Insurance when they do it.
Okay.
There's something called a group blanket policy. That is not what Chubb has available today, but a group blanket policy means the group actually meets criteria available by the Department of Insurance, and then that is just automatically provided to every participant of the group. There's no question, there's no anything on it. It's a program specifically built for everybody. Knowing that you always have that one person in the group, especially in the leisure travel, somebody's going to say, I don't want to have insurance. I don't want it part of my package. I don't want that option. Chubb built the group policies based on a voluntary optional basis, which is the second option.
Okay.
And then, of course, every travel insurance carrier that does have group policies, they have their own restrictions. So what do they consider a group? So Chubb considers the group 10 or more people going on the same travel itinerary. Yes, there might be some pre or post flexibility within the group, but for the majority of the primary purpose of the trip is they're all traveling together.
Okay.
And with that, it's just a different product design in regards to saying, make this available to them. We've designed it to make it as easy as possible, but ultimately you treat it the same way you do any other trip. You go to each person in the group and you say, here's the information on travel insurance. I recommend you consider it. Let me know if you want to purchase it. And then we just have the administration process follow more like a group does, because you might not have all your names solidified and everything done until closer to departure. We assign a group number at the beginning, and then at 60 days prior to departure, you send the payment and the roster.
Okay. A couple of quick questions there. Let's go back to that blanket policy, which I know Chubb doesn't offer, but some other companies might offer, and that is when it's required that every member of that group must take it. No, let's take that thinking for a second. Does that mean that the travel professional, when they go to market it, can they use the word included? Travel protection is included, and with that in mind, nobody can back it out, so it's built into the pricing. So a two-part question, can they say included? And part two, must they give a breakout of what that fee was, or can they just say, no, it's baked in?
Okay. If you're using a group blanket product, and really make sure that you know that that's the style of product you're using and you're not using a product that was set up with the State Departments of Insurance as optional voluntary. Okay. If it's a group blanket product, everybody gets it. You get a lower cost for it because there's no question it has to be part of the package. Okay. The majority of travel insurance carriers out there generally don't offer the type of group blanket, and the reason they don't is because the states say you can only use the group blanket program if you meet certain criteria. It has to be a religious trip, it has to be a missionary trip, it has to be a very specific type of group in order to qualify, and that's why a lot of the travel insurance carriers have just said voluntary, optional, you can't automatically bake it in. Everybody has to make their own decision on the insurance.
Okay, that's really important. What you just said, that folks, if you're working with a group and you'd love to bake it in, have it included, check with your insurance carrier if they offer a blanket policy, because there may be a level of restriction. It may be a certain type of a group. So it's not just a gimme that you can just buy for a family reunion. You may not be able to do that. Right. And if you're offering to clients on a one-on-one basis, okay, unscramble the verbiage, what we're allowed to say, okay, because this is always an issue. Can agents still bake it in? Can they still say included, or is it illegal to do that? They must list it as a separate line item, as a separate cost.
The majority of the positioning on travel insurance is you have to give a customer a choice on if they want to purchase travel insurance or not, and that you can't bake it in. You can't say, just tell me if you don't want it. You have to say, we recommend you consider travel insurance. Here's all the information on it. Here's the price. Let me know if you want it. You really have that restriction of that travel retailer model law gives you some flexibility of not having to be a licensed agent, insurance agent, but you can't cross that line. You can't go too far. You can do those standard things. Recommend it, quote it, find out their decision. Do not ever bake it in unless you are 100% certain the group qualifies under the State Department and the travel insurance provider is providing you what they call a group blanket policy.
Okay, there you go. We got the answer. Bonnie, thank you. Hey, if you've just come in late, welcome. I'm Stuart. That's Bonnie, and we're talking everything insurance. If you've got a question, an issue, an opportunity, a challenge, now's the time to ask the question you've always wanted to get an answer to. I've got many more questions to get to on my folks who have sent it in early prior to the show. We're going to go back to Donna here. Here we go. Thank you, Donna. What happens if you book a group and there's a minimum of a certain amount of people before the group is a go? And if we don't meet the minimum and the group cancels, what do you suggest?
Well, in this scenario, as I'm going to continually state, every travel insurance company has different rules, so I'm going to speak specific to Chubb's rules on this.
Right.
When you want to use a group, you will fill out a request form that will be pre-approved with a group policy number assigned on our behalf. If we've agreed that you believe you're going to have that many people, we can't turn around after the fact and say, oh, I only got 9 instead of 10. We can't pull back that group policy from you. So we're going to work with you on that because we're identifying the group at the beginning, that we're allowing you to have access to that group product, and we've already assigned a group policy number. So we would work through that, and you wouldn't have any issues with us on that.
Okay. Okay. Great answer. Thank you, Donna. Lena has a follow-up question of the conversation we had before. Bonnie, are you saying that if, for instance, you have cancer and you are deemed unfit for travel, are you saying that if you, for instance, have cancer, you are deemed unfit for travel, early stage, less aggressive cancer. Does that make sense based on
Yes.
what we had talked about? Okay.
So once again, it goes back to what are the stipulations to qualify for the pre-existing medical waiver by the travel insurance company. Our particular policies state you have to be medically able to travel if you are one of the travelers when you buy the policy, or you don't get the waiver. So if you are at the early stages, you're getting the chemo treatment, your doctor says you can't travel today, then if you buy the policy today, that condition's not going to be covered for a future trip until you're cleared to travel for that.
Okay. All right. Thanks for clarifying that. Donna asks, do you suggest getting the insurance and risk the group not going? Well, I think we just talked about that. That if no insurance is sold, what are you speaking of, Donna? Does that make sense to you, Bonnie? I don't know if we're talking about.
I think I'm going to rephrase the question. I think the question is, I start out on the group and then I have to cancel the group for lack of participation. Now what do I do about these travel insurance policies? And I think you have to work right with the travel insurance company to find out what are you going to do for the lack of participation. Most I would say quite a few travel insurance companies would probably be more willing to work with you if there's no penalties assessed to the customers if there's a group canceled due to lack of participation, to just refund the premium. But once again, it all relies on each carrier. In our regards, if there's a lack of participation and you're just saying this group isn't going to go, you're giving all the money back, we would easily just refund the premium.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. Thank you, Donna. Susan asks, if airfare is not involved, can we require clients to purchase travel insurance?
No. That gets back into the opt-out. Anything that's related in regards to opt-out offering, you can't mandate a customer, or you can't say to a customer, here's your cruise, here's your amount of your travel insurance, here's the total you're due me. You have to give them that option. Anything with travel insurance and a voluntary optional program that's out there on the market, customers have to decide, do I want this or don't I want this? So really pay attention to how you're marketing it. Make sure that how you're going to market your stuff, you show to your travel insurance carrier, because the travel insurance carrier, with the travel retailer model law and you being listed under the travel insurance provider's license, the travel insurance provider has requirements they have to meet. They have to make sure they're clearly identified on all the marketing materials. They have to make sure there's certain disclaimers included on all marketing materials. So if you're building invoices and you're putting travel insurance on that invoice, you need to send that to your travel insurance provider and have them say, this wording's okay with me and all those requirements are met.
Yes, and just to echo that, in my example, in April I did a partial ship charter on a river cruise, the Alma Christina, and it was a friends and family cruise, but I did a partial ship charter, and for that, with the insurance, before I distributed that flyer, it had to go to the insurance carrier provider. They had to read it, and they made a couple of changes, corrections to verbiage, and it had to be approved prior. And I think most everybody on the line knows that, but that's critical because it can save you some heartache and some potential risk. Let's go for groups, and Bonnie, I am the world-class mispronouncer of people's names. So if you're on, and Nadij, is it Nadij from Cruise Planners, Adventures, and Off the Beaten Path Escapes? I know you are part of the Travel Agent Hacks group. So I beg your forgiveness if I have pronounced your name wrong, because you wouldn't be the first. But you have a lot of questions here. One I want to ask, and then we're going to get back to the boards here. If an agent, Bonnie, is escorting the group trip, what coverage should be considered? Is there anything special for that agent who's escorting, or is it just be they would just purchase insurance for themselves as a standard policy?
Well, one of the things an agent has to keep in mind, and depending on what type of travel agency you have or what type of travel agent you're part of, is some companies, if you work for another company or if you're a self-employed, what type of business insurance do you have? Do you have a business travel accident policy? Is it a business travel policy that's going to cover you for all the things you need it to? Or do you need to purchase a separate travel insurance policy? Some companies offer annual plans available to agents. Some companies don't. You just have to consider a voluntary one. Some, when I'm traveling on business, I do have some level of certain amount of coverage on the plan, but those vary too. So I know exactly what my plan is available as a business traveler versus as do I want more coverage just for my sake and sanity of I want additional, and would I buy an annual plan or personal travel insurance? Personally, because everywhere I travel, I have problems. I'm doubled up.
I hear you. You're overprotected.
I'm overprotected.
So let's dive into this just a second, then we're going to go back because there's so many questions coming in. Another question from Nadij, which is excess E&O or supplemental and general liability, because we're sort of in that area talking that if an agent is traveling for business, or they're traveling for pleasure, or they're escorting a group. Talk to me if there's anything we need to know or any tips you can recommend about E&O and general liability insurance.
Well, I think it's really important that everybody in any type of business considers some sort of professional liability or errors and omissions insurance. There's different varieties of those types of coverages out there. There's different types of programs that are available based on if you're a home-based travel agent versus an independent contractor versus having a actual brick and mortar travel agency.
Okay, that's
important. The best thing and advice I can give to people that if you're considering what level of insurance should I have as a business, you should really work with an insurance broker and talk to an insurance broker that can outline these are all the types of insurances you should consider, and then evaluate. Everybody has to evaluate, do I want insurance for these types of scenarios? But definitely errors and omissions, I think everybody should strongly consider.
Okay. Umbrella coverage versus business bundle. Are you referring to that? You speak with a broker and you sort of get a bundle of coverage. You want to make a comment on that?
Yeah. If you're looking for business insurance, you should work with an insurance broker that can outline all of that, that focuses on that commercial type insurance, and they can get to know you and your business and what your concerns are, and then they can say, here's the different types of insurances available on that space. I know several of the travel insurance carriers are owned and operated by major property casualty and commercial insurance products. So with that, there's so many variables. I've seen so many variables that I really encourage to consider talking to an insurance broker that really has been trained on the product line.
Okay. All right. Let me take one more from this page here, and then we're going back to the boards because it's lit up right now. What are the top reasons people file claims for travel insurance? Hearing it from you, because you're on that side of the fence, will really, I think, illuminate reasons why clients need it.
The majority of the people will file claims for trip cancellation. Unbelievably, that's the reason United States residents purchase travel insurance, because they are worried they might have to cancel. Because they're booking 90 to 120 days out. They don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 months. So that's the reason they're buying. What I'd really like to encourage is people to start considering buying for the medical, but we'll get to that in a little later.
Okay.
But the main reasons they cancel or have any claims associated with travel insurance in general, even if they're on their trip, is medical. And the reason for that is you have to look at the policies that you're offering. Who are they all covering for medical? They're covering the traveler, the traveling companion. Most of them cover all the traveler's family, all the traveling companion's family, and almost most of the policies out there cover everybody in the family except cousins. I mean, it's getting to step family, adopted family, foster family, aunts, uncles, nieces, nephews. There's a lot of people for coverage on there, and something happening in a family where you get that call, somebody's in a car accident, you can't go on this trip, something just happened, somebody's in the hospital. Those things happen every single day. So your number one reason for claims is medical. Your number two is weather. And the reason weather is your number two is nobody can control it, nobody can predict it, nobody knows what's going on. And because the airlines have very specific flight patterns, I might have beautiful weather where I'm headquartered in Philadelphia, but I'm flying somewhere else and it's beautiful there. But if my plane's coming out of Detroit and they're in the middle of the winter season, my flight will be canceled for weather if that flight doesn't get to me. So
Right.
weather is the number 2. And number 3 is baggage. That something happens, lost, stolen,
Still,
damaged, delayed bags. So those are the reasons for any
still
claim
bags.
on travel insurance.
Wow. Thank you for illuminating that. A question for you that I hear often from agents is a consumer saying, oh, my medical, my health insurance covers me when I'm traveling abroad. Tell us the truth, Bonnie.
Okay. You know what? There may be policies out there that cover when you're traveling abroad. There's a small percentage of policies in the industry that do provide personal coverage everywhere.
Okay.
However, here's the catch.
Yeah.
The catch is when you're traveling to another country, they are not required to accept it.
Hmm.
So I don't even have to go to my personal insurance policy and look at my wording to see if it's there or not. If I'm in Mexico, they're not going to accept it. They want their money on the spot. They're not letting you leave the country until you have it. Dominican Republic, if you need major medical surgery, things like that, they're going to require advance payment up front. Every country has their own rules. And I'm even starting to see some of that here within the states, that out-of-state residents. Now that I moved from Wisconsin to Philadelphia, I was back in Wisconsin, needed medical treatment. They said, you need to pay this up front within the next 7 days because you're not a resident here. And I'm like,
wow.
Really? I never expected this in the States. I have medical insurance. Here's all the information. They're like, nope, pay the bill. You can deal with that. You can take care of all that because you're not a state resident. So because all of the insurance and personal insurance is shifting to health savings plans and high deductible plans and in-network, out-of-network, all those other things, it really doesn't matter if you're out of the country. Your personal insurance will likely not be accepted. They want their money up front. You can come back home and try to file and see if they'll reimburse you. But if you can't, I was thinking about it. I saw a story not too long ago on social media that where somebody didn't have travel insurance. And I'm like, if this happened to me and I didn't have my travel insurance when I was out of the country, who in my family could I call and say, I need $30,000 right now?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people in my family. I figured out 2, maybe 3 people that I could call and say, I need you to wire me $30,000 right now that probably could do it. The majority of people in the U.S., they don't have that opportunity, and they're going to really be in a pinch if they don't have travel insurance. And we need to shift the industry of travel insurance is not just for trip cancellation. Travel insurance is if you're out of the country, you probably won't have any medical coverage when you're traveling, or if you do, it's not going to be accepted.
Wow. Okay, that's big, everybody. Let that resonate, but I can't give you a pause because we've got a little over 15 minutes left and a ton of questions we're going to dive in right now. Just one quick note for you. Again, thank you, Elena, Travel Agent Hacks. Thank you, boot campers. If anybody's interested in really radically transforming your business, check out Boot Camp. And I have a free webinar series coming up on groups. Free. September 26, 27, and an optional one on September 28. 3 days in a row, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And it's number 1, reasons why you're not getting more groups. Number 2, reasons why group leaders keep failing you. And number 3 is a surprise. So if you have any more interest in it, I'm not going to take up time during this program. Send me an email, reach out, send a Raven, anything to let me know you want. I'll give you the dates and the RSVP. Here we go. Are you ready, Bonnie? We're going to dive deep and go fast. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so glad you're here. Okay, from Teresa, if a client doesn't cover 100% of the non-refundable costs, but when they file the claim, they only file the claim for portions that they did cover, is that okay? How would the insurance company know that they didn't cover?
If the customer has their intention of they're only covering for their cruise and they didn't want, and because the airfare can be reused for 12 months and things of that nature, that they decide not to file on that, what's going to be evaluated at time of a claim is you're filing a claim for this. This is the amount. Did you insure all that prepaid non-refundable? And the only impact on most of the policies in the industry is the pre-existing waiver, because that's a stipulation for the pre-existing waiver. If you're not worried about the waiver or have no concerns there, then you can insure whatever you want on your trip. It's totally your choice. It's if you don't insure everything, most companies won't allow you to be eligible for that pre-existing coverage.
Yeah.
So with that, we can only go by what we're presented. If our claims department receives a claims documentation and here's all the information, the validation they're going to is to look at the policy and make sure that entire amount is covered. If there's something else that wasn't submitted, but keep in mind, customers should be really upfront and be very cautious not to go too far in regards to how they're handling things, because there is that thing of not going through and filing everything that you're supposed to be filing for. So you really should keep that caution on the side.
Right. Key is to just eliminate the risk. No games. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Teresa. This one is from Casey. Does Chubb offer clients an annual insurance policy? I understand from another company that an annual policy becomes good for 1 year from effective date. So if client goes on more than one trip per year, this makes sense for them. Does coverage include, say, a small domestic trip, and then they go on an African safari, and then they go on a luxury cruise? Are all those non-refundable costs for each trip covered under the one annual policy?
When you're looking at annual policies, and I'm going to speak general first in the travel insurance community, when you're looking at annual policies, the annual policies are designed more for I'm flying all over the United States from here to there, that I might want little things done. They are not geared toward covering the Africa safari. Their limits of coverage for trip cancellation are minimal. They do not provide a heavy, extensive amount if you're in certain parts of the world to give you enough coverage in coverage limits.
Interesting.
They are designed more for the customer of, I'm in Philadelphia, I'm flying to Florida to see family, I'm flying to Tennessee to see family. I can say that because I have family probably in every state, because I was the largest family in the U.S., Stuart. I don't know if you remember that. My great-grandmother had 25 kids, so I could fly everybody around the country. But the limits of coverage on annual plans are not geared towards the big vacations. They're geared toward just the everyday I travel a lot. So Chubb is in the process of building them. We're hoping to release them by the end of the year, but we don't have them out as of yet.
All right, terrific. Casey, great question. This is from Wendy. Is there an option for clients that experience medical problems while in a destination as far as immediate payment for services rendered, so the client doesn't have to come out of pocket for these high costs? You referenced this before. Is there another option like that where they need the money instantly?
Okay. So one of the things you want to keep in mind is when you're checking your travel insurance policies, and I'm referring back to that certificate of insurance, some companies will very clearly state advance payment guarantee will be provided if there's hospital admission, or they might state here's how we'll handle it. Other companies, you call their call center and they state we'll evaluate it on the severity of the condition and case by case. You really need to work with your current travel insurance carrier, and find out what their rules are and get it in writing from them. We're trying at Chubb to make sure everything's very clear and in writing. So our policies very clearly state the stipulations to get the advance payment guarantee completed in that situation.
Okay, great. Casey's back. Do Chubb oh, by the way, I see a bunch of people asking that you just came in or you missed a part. Is this being recorded? The answer is yes. And it will be available for replay, because we're attacking a lot of subjects here, and you may need to come back and reference it. You're more than welcome to. Do Chubb policies allow for the travel agency planning fee to be included in the coverage should clients decide not to go? This would be for, say, $250 planning fee paid for the client up front. Can that amount be included in the total trip cost at the time of purchasing the policy?
Absolutely. I think in a general statement across the board, I think most of the industry does see that travel agencies are, I actually prefer to call everybody travel professionals, because you're travel consultants, you're travel professionals, you're not just a travel agent, you're doing a lot more than that. I know when I work with my travel professional and I'm going on a trip, and I've actually found out how quickly it is to get a group if I tell somebody in social media that I'm going somewhere and then everybody I know is coming with me, is that if you have to plan something out, if you're charging a $50 fee for booking an airline ticket, you're charging a $100 fee for this, or you charge $200 just to process a cancellation, those fees would be included for Chubb. And I think in general the industry is pretty understanding that travel professionals need to be able to get compensated.
Good. That's great news. Great question, Casey. Lenore is asking, I have clients who are airline employees. They want to purchase medical and emergency evac protection. Is there a time limit when purchasing medical-only insurance?
This is where you have to really come back to. If you're looking at a medical-only policy, and currently Chubb does not have a medical-only policy available, but if you're looking at a medical-only policy or one of those medical emergency evacuation type policies, a lot of those don't cover pre-existing conditions. So it's really important to make sure that people understand how many days are they looking back, and does that apply to the traveler or not.
Hmm.
So that's why there's really no stipulation. Most people just say you can buy it up until the day before you travel because they're not waiving pre-existing for the most part on those medical-only plans.
Okay. Great question, Lenore. Thank you. Chris is asking, this is going back before, so I'm catching up here, everybody. Thanks for your patience. Chubb, do you have yearly travel agent insurance it says travel agent insurance. So do you have that annual insurance program for travel agents?
All of our annual plans are actually, I signed off on the clearance of moving them forward, and we'll have them developed by the end of the year.
Oh, cool. Okay, there you go, Chris. Then he says, regarding the warning about Mexico yesterday, how would this be handled by Chubb right now if someone wants to cancel?
Well, one of the things to keep in mind is that just having an issuance of a travel warning in situations like this are not traditionally covered by any travel insurance, and they're not on the Chubb policies either. So what's covered is if you're getting ready to go to a country and there is a terrorist incident or something like that that triggers coverage, then you're okay. But if you wouldn't be able to just cancel because a warning was issued. Okay. And sometimes those warnings, you really have to pay attention to where are they referencing those warnings for. Is it actually the tourist destinations? I did just read the one from yesterday on the Mexico warning. And customers will be concerned. But other things you need to keep in mind is things can happen to us every day in our life, whether I'm sitting in the fifth largest city in the U.S. in Philadelphia versus if I'm in Mexico. It's the customer making that decision. If I really want to go and I want to go on vacation, then you have to look back at the policies of you can't just cancel for fear of travel.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Kyle is asking, see if you could do this in one sentence. What sets Chubb apart or different from other insurance carriers? Kyle, I'd like to answer that and say, Bonnie, that's what sets Chubb apart. But go ahead, take it on. You might as well plug Chubb, and then we'll get back to the next question.
Might as well. What we've done at Chubb is we took a very strong look before developing our travel insurance programs. We analyzed many travel insurance policies out there. And what we found is that travel insurance is becoming very complicated. There is so much fine print out there. There's so many 30-page policies to read and understand the difference from one point to the next. When we built our travel community programs for travel professionals, we built 3 plans, but we kept the fine print the same on all 3 so that the training takes a lot less. You know what you're offering, and the customers decide what level of coverage for dollars does my customer want to have. Do I want $1 million in evacuation, or do I want $150,000 in evacuation? Because we wanted it to be much simpler for you to be able to say to the customer, you're getting all the same cancellation reasons, you're getting all the same time restrictions, you're getting all the same pre-existing clauses, and not worrying about that 30 pages behind the scenes. Plus, it makes it a lot easier for me to make materials.
Good answer. Bonnie, do you pay, is it commissionable or is it net rate?
Everything in ours is gross priced with commission built in.
Okay, commission built in. Casey says, can we agents purchase policies from Chubb online for simplicity and quickly? Do you guys offer online transactions?
Chubb is not focused right now on direct-to-consumer marketing. We want all of our business coming through a travel professional. So if you go to chubbtravelprotection.com, right now there's no way to book a policy. But we built a back-end portal for all travel professionals to get quotes on all 3 of our policies at the same time, see all the comparison of the coverage limits, and be able to have quotes emailed to customers. So we've built a phenomenal travel portal for the travel professionals community.
Great. So I would encourage agents right now, if to get more, to connect, go ahead and visit that portal, sign up so you can be a part of it. Here we go. Jean Ann says, does Chubb cover family members who do not live in the United States, either as a paid policy or as a reason to cancel if that family member gets sick and the traveler needs to cancel or care for them? I've had this happen with clients with multinational families.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All I can do is state on Chubb's behalf is our certificate of insurance does not restrict that all the family members have to be in the United States. We can only insure people that reside in the United States, so people that buy our policy that are actually traveling. But if I had a family member that moved to London and they ended up having a heart attack and I wanted to cancel, our policy doesn't stipulate the family has to be U.S. resident.
Okay.
Only the travelers.
Okay, an interesting question. Lena says, how many policies do you need for a group policy? So what's the minimum for groups?
For Chubb, it's 10.
10. There you go. Great question. Judy, oh, this is so sweet. This is a tremendous webinar. Yay. Bonnie is amazingly knowledgeable. Is it possible to copy of the webinar for future reference? Yes, yes, yes. I will make sure when I'm going to publish it on YouTube so everybody can come and see this again and again because it is loaded. Alina says, it is my understanding that the way to get around including a group policy to every traveler is to add it in for free, but adding a higher profit on the trip cost. Is that...
You know, because of the new travel, it's one thing if you're a licensed insurance agent on what actions you can take versus if you're following the travel retailer model law that was adopted in all the jurisdictions, except I'm going to repeat the 4 one more time. New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Hawaii have not adopted. So if you're following the travel retailer model law, don't try to play games with it. You are very limited on what you can do without a travel insurance license. Make sure you talk to your carrier. Make sure they approve whatever you are doing, because ultimately you will be held responsible if you're not following those rules and regulations.
Okay, good answer. Thank you, Lena. Lucille is asking, actually she's making a comment. My policy is that when the client declines, he or she has to sign a waiver for my file. So that's cool, right, Bonnie? You suggest agents can have them sign a waiver that they have clearly said, no, I don't want the insurance. It's been offered to me and I've declined.
Everybody should be getting an acknowledgement of a decision. Whether you call it an insurance waiver or not, there's some debate in the industry over that. I call it an acknowledgement of decision document. You should always have something documented in your file. The other thing when documenting in your file, it shouldn't just be sign this piece of paper. In order for it to actually mean something, it has to have the invoice number. It has to exactly reference the trip they're signing on behalf of. So very important that when you're making that, you just don't have a form you send to everybody and say, sign this. It better also state before that signature's on there is it's connected to this exact trip.
Yeah, and to that point, for my partial ship charter, the Ama Christina, I actually created an online form. I used JotForm, and I listed the trip, all the specifics, and I required them to do an electronic signature to saying it's been offered to me and I have declined it. Boom. And luckily, almost everybody took it. There were a few couples that did not. And one of the couples who ended up having to cancel for medical reasons, it's a good thing they had taken it. Denise said, so is the group policy you offer a better price than if we booked individual insurance? Group policy versus individual. And part 2, are prices based on the cost of the trip or the age of the people?
So on the Chubb policy design, we built it as a non-age based. So really answering the first question is, what type of group are you doing? If you're doing a student group because it's a non-age-based program, student groups probably are going to get a better deal on the individual policy because that's how individual policies are rated by age. If you're doing an all over the map, they're all over different ages. The reason we developed the group the way we did is to keep it simple. And our thing at Chubb is simple, flexible, and easier for the travel professional. So it is not rated by age, but in some situations, if you're doing a youth group or you're doing a student group, yeah, you're going to get better price on the individual, but ultimately it's an easier administration process, it's an easier way to do it, it's easier to communicate and market it saying we have travel insurance available, this is how much it is. So we're trying to keep that, bringing simplification back to travel insurance, and that's our entire goal.
Okay, good deal. Guess what? We have 60 seconds left, so I'm going to do one more question, but listen up, everybody. Watch for the link. I'm going to have it posted, and of course I'll post it in Group Bootcamp. I will post it Stuart Cohn Show, my other Facebook page, and also Travel Agent Hacks. And because there are probably 6 or 7 more questions, I'm going to say, Bonnie, is it okay if I send you those questions by email, get a response from you so I can post them so everyone's questions will be answered? Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool.
Just go ahead and send them over and I'll get you the answers.
You're awesome. Thank you. All right, final question from Lena. When you travel, and it's got to be short, when you travel with a group and one person gets sick or hurt, it affects the entire group. If that person does not have insurance and the issue causes added expenses for everyone else in the group because of delays, who is responsible?
Oh, Oh, who's responsible? Well, I would say ultimately, the people that have travel insurance are the ones that are going to get compensated. The ones that don't have insurance will not be compensated. And most travel insurance policies all cover single supplement if there's additional cost because somebody's out.
Yeah. Wow, great question. Bonnie, thank you so very much. Did you have a good time?
I had a great time. I can't believe the amount of questions that you had. When you started talking to me about this, I'm like, oh, I'll get on here. We'll have a few questions. I'll have to have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. You guys were awesome. Unbelievable group you have, and clearly a topic that needs to be discussed.
Yeah, it's great. And we probably could go another hour, but we're going to cut it right now. So everybody, thank you so very much for being here. And Bonnie, I'm grateful that you've shared your expertise with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate it. And everybody have a great day.